Most INFJs can't fall asleep without a blanket, and as an INFJ, I'm no different. It may seem harmless, but for an INFJ heart, this thin layer carries a story heavier than its weight. If you're willing to step into the quiet shadows with me, I'll show you where this hidden need truly began. And trust me, you'll be amazed at the end. I don't know when it started, this strange, almost desperate need to sleep under a blanket, no matter how warm the room is, no matter how heavy life feels on my chest. People tease me for it sometimes. They say, "How can you sleep when you're wrapped up like that?" They laugh as if my blanket is just a habit, as if it's just something small, something normal, something silly. But what they don't know, what they will never understand, is that the blanket is the only thing that has ever made me feel safe. And maybe that sounds pathetic, maybe that sounds weak, but it's the truth, and the truth is heavier than any blanket I've ever pulled over my body. There's a certain psychology at play for individuals like myself who find it impossible to sleep without the comfort of a blanket. It's not merely about coziness or warmth, but rather the blanket serves as a protective barrier against a world that has been relentlessly harsh, overwhelming, and unyielding. Psychologists may refer to this phenomenon as pressure therapy, sensory grounding, or emotional conditioning. For me, however, it transcends these labels. It's a means of survival, a silent, unspoken survival that often goes unnoticed, as few have ever shown the compassion to inquire about it. You see, society often misconstrues our attachment to soft, comforting objects as childish or immature. They view it as a sign of fragility or melodrama, as if craving solace is somehow wrong. But the reality is, those who hold onto blankets tightly at night are frequently the ones who were deprived of comfort and security in their past. They endured loneliness and fear without support, and were pressured to be strong before they were truly prepared. Over time, they mastered the art of concealing their sorrow, even to the point where their own shadows have forgotten the sound of their tears. In my youth, I lacked someone trustworthy to confide in, someone to whom I could say, "I'm afraid." There was no comforting hand to grasp, no supportive shoulder to lean on, no reassuring voice whispering, "You're safe, I'm here." Instead, I became the person others relied on. They sought me out for solace, guidance, attention, and forgiveness, things I freely offered, believing I had an infinite supply. But they continued to take and take and take until I found myself depleted, with nothing left to give to myself. All that remained was my solitary blanket. There are moments when I realize my blanket was the sole entity I didn't have to put on a show for. I wasn't obligated to be wise, patient, or forgiving. I didn't need to hold my breath in anticipation of someone's anger or diminish myself to make another feel superior. I didn't have to feign invulnerability or hide my pain. My blanket never judged me, nor did it demand that I be strong. It didn't criticize my sensitivity or exploit me. All it did was envelop me, safeguard me, and provide the one thing I rarely found elsewhere: reliability. Many are unaware that the need to sleep with a blanket is rooted in actual psychological science. Experts explain that it's connected to deep pressure stimulation, where the gentle pressure of the blanket soothes the nervous system. This can decrease heart rate, alleviate anxiety, and send a message to the brain that you're secure, even when life suggests otherwise. Interestingly, research indicates that individuals raised in unpredictable, emotionally turbulent environments often cling to blankets or weighted bedding as adults. It's not about being immature, but rather their nervous system was never taught to recognize safety, prompting them to create their own sense of security through these objects. Perhaps this explains my inability to sleep without a blanket. My life has been a constant whirlwind of unpredictability. People entered with warmth, only to depart in icy silence. Friends exploited my kindness for their gain. Partners criticized my empathy until they needed it once more. Family burdened me, a child, with emotional responsibilities I couldn't fully grasp, all while grappling with my own sorrow. I adapted by quietly enduring, minimizing my presence just enough to make it through the chaos. Yet in the solitude of night, I permit myself to be vulnerable. It's then that my blanket becomes my sole witness, embracing me like a cherished memory I never experienced. It offers a warmth that was absent, a tenderness I longed for but never received, especially during those moments when I needed it the most. Others might say, just sleep without it, it's no big deal. But they can't comprehend my body's visceral response. Without a blanket, my heart accelerates, my mind goes on high alert, and I feel vulnerable, as if something ominous is looming. It's an instinctive reaction I struggle to explain because they've never endured the terror of sleeping with fear as a constant companion. They've never had to listen for potential threats in the stillness of their own home. Comfort, for them, isn't a fleeting, fragile thing. For me, comfort was never freely given. So now, I hold on to the small, tangible sources of solace, like my blanket, that remind me of my worth. On certain nights, enveloped in my blanket, I find myself awake and pondering the irony of feeling unsafe, despite being surrounded by others. I recall the silent pleas I made to the world, yearning for gentleness. But instead, it demanded more, gave less, and pushed me further. Perhaps this is why I cling to my blanket, not out of coldness, but exhaustion. I'm weary of bearing the burden of others' expectations, loving those who lose their way back to me, and constantly being the understanding, forgiving, and soft-hearted one. Experts suggest that individuals who cannot sleep without blankets often harbor attachment wounds. These are people who learned early on that love can vanish, affection is conditional, and safety is fleeting. Their blanket becomes an unconscious act of defiance against abandonment, a quiet assertion that tonight at least something will remain. For me, it's a vow that something, anything, will stay by my side even if it's just a simple piece of fabric. And still, I resent my dependence on it. I resent how something as mundane as a blanket holds such profound significance. I loathe that I continue to give more than I receive, that I console others while secretly longing for comfort myself. I despise the facade of strength I wear, concealing the vulnerability etched into my being. Occasionally, I fantasize about falling asleep in someone's embrace, free from the need for my blanket, genuine safety, and authenticity. But experience has taught me not to hope for such things. Life consistently demonstrates that people depart once they've taken all they desire, so my blanket stays a silent, faithful sanctuary. Interestingly, research reveals that adults who experienced emotional isolation in their youth often exhibit physical withdrawal symptoms when they sleep without any covering. Their bodies perceive the absence of weight as exposure, triggering vulnerability. The nervous system activates a fight or flight response, while the brain interprets the open space as a threat. Upon reflection, this reaction is understandable. If one's life has conditioned them to anticipate pain, their body won't simply unwind just because the world momentarily quiets down. People like me don't sleep serenely. We sleep with our guard up, ready to defend ourselves at any moment. As I envelop myself in the blanket, it's as if I'm finally granted permission to cease the charade. I can lower my defenses, release the breath I've held all day while others drained my energy. Wrapped in its warmth, I momentarily feel whole again, as if the fragments of myself that others took are restored. Yet there's a heartbreaking truth. Some nights, even the blanket falls short. Memories overpower me. The voices of those who caused me pain resound louder. Fear of exploitation seeps in, and loneliness transforms into a palpable ache. I cling to the blanket desperately, hoping it can mend the damage inflicted by others, fill the void, and compensate for the love I've given without receiving enough in return. Perhaps the depth of this longing stems from the fact that the blanket represents more than fabric. It's a testament to my prolonged lack of protection. It's an unspoken acknowledgement of the vulnerability I've endured for far too long. I don't anticipate everyone to grasp this. Many will dismiss it, thinking it's trivial, but that's all right. Not every part of my story is intended for everyone. Certain truths are reserved for those who bear similar scars, who grasp their own blankets more firmly in the night, who wish for sleep to arrive before sorrow does. They're for those who have been strong for so long that even a touch of gentleness feels like a precious gift. If you share my reliance on a blanket for sleep, perhaps your heart still yearns for a refuge it was once denied. Your mind may still seek the comfort of security, and your soul might remember a time when it desperately needed protection but found none. This need isn't a sign of frailty, it's proof that you endured a hardship you rarely speak of. Maybe someday you'll no longer require the blanket. Maybe a person will come along and hold you in a way that feels equally secure. Someone who won't exploit your gentleness or take your kindness without reciprocating. Someone who acknowledges the burden you bear and offers to share it with you. Until that day arrives, embrace your blanket. Allow it to provide warmth and shelter. Let it be a reminder that despite the world's failures, you've managed to find solace within yourself. You've endured, and sometimes survival manifests as wrapping yourself in a blanket, whispering softly, "I'm safe, for tonight at least."